Welcome to the hidden corners where truth and terror collide. Discover a realm where the lines between the living and the supernatural blur as you embark on a journey to the paranormal and visit the mysterious hidden corners of your mind.
Welcome to the Wolfman Chronicles. This is Chapter 9 of Book 7, which makes it Episode 86. And we're in Nevada. Desert shadows. The warm morning sun set long shadows over the rugged landscape of Moore's Station, the forgotten settlement nestled deep in the Nevada desert. They had stayed up late the previous night, sitting around that fire pit, roasting marshmallows and telling ghost stories. Earlier, they had set up their tents in the apple orchard near the old crumbling stone building that had served as a general store back in its glory days. Perched silently on the rocky outcrop overlooking the orchard, the mountain lion mother surveyed the scene, tense and wary. She had hoped to move her cubs in the night, but the man had a scent about him that scared her. Something feral, wild, dangerous, and he was right there. Several times she had patted down from her perch, gathering up courage to pass the flimsy material that separated the man from her cubs. But then she'd heard a low growl coming from the tent, steady, rhythmic, and it scared her. So for now, her cubs were hidden in the cool darkness beneath the old stone building. But now that it was light, they'd be stirring soon, hungry. She hadn't dared leave her watch to hunt last night for risk of losing her cubs. And now, the people were roaming around again, and she'd lost her opportunity to move them. The smell of cooking meat wafted up and made her stomach growl with hunger pangs. The people were leaning over the fire, and the smell of meat drifted up towards the outcropping of rocks. A soft mewing sound drew Rachel's attention, and she wandered back to the old stone building, leaving Jack and Sasha frying bacon, a cast-iron skillet over that fire. One of the small cubs had wandered out of her hiding spot, drawn by curiosity and the scent of bacon. It padded softly toward Rachel, golden eyes wide and trusting, while the other young one peeked its little head out of the hole. Rachel knelt and lifted the cub into her arms, laughing with delight. She cradled it against her chest and hollered over to Jack and Sasha, eager to show off her kitten. "Look what I found under the building," she laughs. "Kittens!" Jack's expression changed the moment he saw the cub in Rachel's arms. The soft, tawny fur, the wide paws, and the just faint spots. "Rachel," he said low and sharp, his senses on high alert. "That's not a kitten. It's a baby mountain lion. You need to put it down, slowly." The air grew still. Jack's eyes scanned the horizon, and then he saw her. The mother mountain lion silently moving across the orchard towards Rachel, muscles coiled and hunched like a cat stalking its prey, eyes locked onto Rachel, ready to spring. Jack stood slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements. "Rachel," he said again, more urgent now, but still calm, his hand extended towards her. Gently reached down and put the kitten on the ground and walked towards me, slow and easy. Rachel froze, cradling the cub in her arms, realization dawning on her face. "It's just a baby," she whispered. "I know," Jack said, "and the mama doesn't know you're not a threat. All she knows is you've got her kid." The mountain lion let out another low growl, tail twitching, her golden eyes locked on Rachel like crosshairs, moving slowly, stalking even closer, her muscles bunched, One wrong move and she'd be airborne and on top of Rachel in a split second. Rachel took a trembling step forward. The cub squirmed a little in her arms, but it didn't cry out. And Jack took a step closer. "Good," he said gently. "You're doing great. Now put the kitten down." And then a rock slipped under Rachel's boot as she shifted her weight. The scrape echoed like a gunshot in the still morning air. With a hiss and a flash of tawny fur, the mountain lion sprang through the air like a golden streak, silent, fast, and deadly, straight towards Rachel. Jack roared. Not a shout, not a scream, a roar, deep and guttural, unnatural for a man, something that came from the very core of him, the kind of sound that didn't come from a human. The lion twisted in midair, thrown off by the sound. She landed hard on all fours, just feet away, crouched and ready to leap again. But now, her eyes were no longer on Rachel. They were on Jack. Sasha's eyes widened. She'd heard the sound that Jack made before, but never in the light of day, and never this loud. Jack didn't take the time to think. Something primal ignited inside of him. A low rumble built in his chest as his bones began to shift. Pain lanced through his muscles. His vision sharpened, narrowing on the predator inches away from Rachel. The scent of fear and firewood and wild desert sage filled his nostrils. The bristles along the back of his neck rose, fur sprouting where skin had been, his jaw elongating with a crack of cartilage and bone. Not now, he thought, clinging desperately to the thin thread of his humanity. There was no choice. Necessity ripped the decision from him. With an earth-shaking snarl, Jack launched himself on all fours between Rachel and the cat. Half man, half beast. His eyes flashed gold. Fangs protruded from his face, still forming mid-shift. The air rippled around him as his body contorted violently, sinew and muscle rearranging themselves into something not fully human, not fully wolf, but terrifyingly real. The mountain lion snarled back in confusion, her ears flat against her skull. She reared up slightly, her claws out, ready to fight. Jack snarled back, and a standoff occurred between the two wild beasts. Rachel backed away a step, her eyes transfixed on Jack. Sasha, heart thudding, bolted from the fire pit. "Rachel," she screamed, grabbing the girl by the shoulders, trying to turn her and shield her from the impossible scene playing out before them. "Don't look, don't watch." But Rachel struggled against her. Her scream tore through the orchard as her eyes locked onto Jack, fully mid-shift, muscles rippling, teeth bared, crouched low and snarling louder than she'd ever imagined possible. A sound not of this world. "No," Rachel cried. Her eyes were wide and she was trembling. Sasha yanked Rachel back just as the mountain lion lunged, its body a blur of golden muscle and fury. Time seemed to slow as that cat twisted midair, claws outstretched, fangs bared in a silent snarl of rage, protection. Jack met the pounce head on, half shifted, his figure grotesquely changed in its transformation. His limbs were contorted, shoulders were broadening and a back arching with an unnatural ripple. Where his shirt is ripped, fur erupted along his spine. His hands, no paws, slashed upwards, intersecting the lion's attack in a violent, snarling collision. They tumbled to the ground in a whirl of limbs and snarls, dust and fur flying. Rachel screamed, her breath caught in her throat, eyes wide with disbelief and horror. "Jack," she cried out, but it was drowned in the guttural, primal growls echoing off the walls of the orchard. The two creatures clashed and rolled, Jack's half-wolf form writhing as he fought to maintain control, not only over the beast attacking him, but the one rising within him. The lion clawed at him wildly, confused, desperate to protect her cubs. But Jack's strength was overpowering. With a final, forceful snarl, he hurled her away. She hit the ground several feet away from Jack, scrambled to her feet, then turned and bolted, vanishing into the scrub with a hiss and a flash of her tail. Silence fell, thick and unreal. Dust drifted in the sunbeams slanting through the trees. Jack remained crouched, his back rising and falling with labored breaths. His golden eyes flicked up, haunted, human again. Slowly, trembling, he turned his head to Rachel and Sasha. Rachel stepped forward, her voice barely a whisper. "Jack?" Jack stood there, chest heaving, claws sinking into the earth. Blood pounded in his ears. He was exposed, fully, finally. Rachel stood frozen, staring at him in stunned silence. Her lips moved, but no words came out. His breathing slowed, his bones ached with the half-transformation. He lowered his head and rolled his shoulders, letting the bones snap and pop as the transformation into his human body began. Rachel still held the kitten in her arms, shaking with fear and shock, and Sasha stood behind her, her hands gently resting on Rachel's shoulders. Jack took the cubs from her arms and gently set it on the ground. The little creature bolted back towards the stone building, darting under the foundation, and its sibling vanished with it. "Their mother will be back for them if we stay out of the way," he said. A long moment passed as Rachel collapsed into Sasha's arms. Jack stood slowly, his hands trembling, his breath short. No one said anything for a few moments. Then Rachel whispered, "Will somebody tell me what just happened?" In the distance, the desert wind stirred the apple trees. Jack stayed still for a moment, his breathing heavy and ragged, as the last remnants of the beast within him receded. The fur along his arms and shoulders slowly withdrew, the sharp tips of his claws retracted, and the wolfish angles of his face softened, until the man returned, worn, wounded, and raw. Rachel stood frozen, her lips parted but no sounds coming out. Her wide eyes darted between Jack and Sasha, trying to make sense of what she'd just witnessed. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he said quietly, his voice hoarse with emotion. "But I couldn't let that cat hurt you. I didn't have a choice." Rachel blinked at him, still stunned. What was that?" Jack swallowed hard and took a cautious step forward. "I'm not what you think I am. I mean, I am Jack. I'm still me, but there's another side of me too, something I've carried for years." Sasha kept her arm around Rachel's shoulder, afraid she may run in fear. But where would she run to? "I am a shapeshifter," Jack continued, carefully choosing his words. "It's a rare condition, a kind of inheritance, you could say. You see, I can shift into an animal form. Not just any animal, specifically a wolf. But I'm still me when I do it. I don't lose myself. I remember everything." Rachel stared at him, her breath catching. "A shapeshifter?" she echoed. Like in the movies?" Jack gave a small nod. "Some of the stories are exaggerated, but the core of it, it's real. And it's not just stories around a campfire. It's me. It's what I've been hiding, what I've been running from." She turned and she looked at Sasha. Can you do that too?" Sasha nodded her head, almost imperceptibly. "Yes, sweetheart." Rachel studied both their faces for a long moment. Then she quietly said, "Are you going to eat me?" Jack burst into laughter, easing the tension of the moment. Ah, you're way too scrawny, kid. He stepped forward and ruffled her hair. No, we don't eat humans. We eat bacon and eggs, and I'm hungry. He chuckled as he turned back towards the fire pit. Rachel reached out her hand slowly, taking his hand in hers. Thank you for saving me, she whispered. Jack stopped and faced her. I always will. A quiet breeze stirred the apple blossoms overhead. For the first time since his chaos, Jack exhaled fully. He looked into her eyes, and in them he saw something he hadn't dared hope for. Understanding. Well, or at least the beginning of it. After packing up the car, they were ready to head back to Tonopah. Are you sure that mother lion will be back for her cubs? Rachel asked, sneaking a longing look towards the hole under that stone building. Oh, absolutely. She's right up there on the ridge right now watching us leave. You can bet she'll be down here just as soon as we drive away. Rachel followed Jack's gaze and saw the figure of the lion sitting on the rock outcropping on the ridge. Can we leave them the rest of the bacon? Of course you can, Sasha replied. I'm sure they'll love it. As Rachel dozed in the back seat, Jack stole a glance at Sasha. Well, she knows the truth now. That is one resilient kid back there. Sasha nodded her head in agreement. Gosh, she's been through so much. The wreck, losing her parents, and now this. But she seems to take it all in stride, or she's really good at masking her true feelings, Jack says. So what's next? Sasha asked. After everything that's happened already this year, Ireland, the plane incident, now this, do you think we can just go back to Alaska and live a normal life? Like normal people do once we get the signed guardianship papers from Luella? Sounds kind of nice, doesn't it? Jack smiled at her. They had no idea what was waiting for them in Tonopah. The long, straight stretch of Highway 95 shimmered in the noonday heat as Jack drove back to Tonopah. A small herd of antelope grazed in a field, perking up their heads and taking off like lightning at the sound of the vehicle. The vast Nevada sky arched overhead in a bright, blistering blue. I won't say I'm sorry to leave this desert behind, Jack muttered under his breath. It takes a hardy soul to live out here. The clerk's office was a small, nondescript building with no cars parked out front, open only 3 days a week. The clerk seemed surprised to have someone walk in the front door. Can I help you? She asked. Jack Moore, Jack replied. I'm here to pick up the guardianship papers that were drawn up for Jack and Sasha Moore regarding a minor, Rachel. The clerk, a pudgy woman in her mid-50s with dyed red hair and too much rouge, opened the only file in her metal file basket on her desk. Well, this must be yours, she replied, handing Jack the papers. Just have them signed and bring them back here, and I'll notarize them for you. But mind you, I leave at 4 p.m. sharp. Or maybe a few minutes before. And she winked. Well, thank you, Jack smiled, tipping his cowboy hat at her. She watched him walk back out the door with approving eyes. She might just be willing to stay after 4 to see that man walk through the door again. Now, outside of Goldfield, Jack slowed as they turned onto the dusty side road that led to Luella's trailer. A squat, sun-bleached single wide nestled between the bunch of leaning plywoods had been made into a goat pen, and another small trailer with missing doors and a window. Once they reached the pink Cadillac buried half into the desert sand, they knew that they were at the right place. A rusted mailbox leaned to one side, bullet holes riddling its metal skin. An old wind chime made from silverware clinked lazily in the hot breeze, and Luella's old rocking chair was lazily rocking back and forth in that breeze. Jack killed the engine, and for a long moment not a one of them spoke. The place was quiet, too quiet. And they realized no goats were roaming through the yard. and no sign of Annie Lou's car. Jack opened his door and stepped out, his boots hitting the dusty earth with a crunch. They'd told her they'd be back today with the papers. With no phone to reach her ahead of time, Jack had just assumed she'd be there waiting for him. He tested the screen door, and it creaked open. The inner door was ajar. He stepped inside cautiously, calling out, "Luella?" There was no answer. A broken mug lay shattered on the linoleum floor near the kitchen, and the dishes were piled high in the sink and on the counters, and papers were scattered across the counter and the floor like someone had rifled through them in a hurry. Sasha stepped in behind him, pulling out her phone to take pictures of the muddy boot marks smeared on the floor. Boot marks much too large to be Luella's. In the bedroom, the bed was unmade, drawers were half open. A photo frame lay face down on the floor. The trailer hadn't been ransacked exactly, just disturbed, violated, as if someone had come looking for something, or someone. "I don't like this," Jack murmured, eyes narrowing as he moved to the back door. He pushed it open and scanned the dry yard. Well, no signs of a struggle outside, but there's tire tracks in the dirt. Recent. He stepped outside, inspecting the dirt near the tracks. Men's boots, military style on both sides. There were at least 2 men here. Rachel picked up the photo frame, gently picking up the pieces of broken glass. It was a picture of Lou and her mother, taken when they were about 12 years old. Her hand tightened around the frame. Where could she be, she asked, glancing around the room at the disheveled mess. "Jack!" Sasha called urgently from the small bedroom on the other side of the trailer. It had served as Luella's meditation room, with pillows on the floor and tapestries hanging on the walls that smelled like stale incense and candles. Jack quickly walked back inside, where Sasha was already attempting to prevent Rachel from peering into that small bedroom. He poked his head inside, unprepared for what he was about to see. Inside the room, a perfectly severed goat's head lay in the center of the room, its glassy eyes staring towards nothing, mouth slightly open in an expression of eternal silence. It had been placed on the floor in the center of a pentacle drawn in what looked like dark blood, a 5-pointed star centered with a circle. Jack sniffed the air. There was no smell of fresh blood. That pentacle appeared as if it had been there for a long time, and the goat's head, though fresh, appeared to have no blood. He crouched beside it, studying the circle more closely. The lines had dried dark, but they hadn't cracked or faded. Someone had retraced them recently. He looked around the room again, more carefully this time. The arrangement of the goat's head, the symmetry of the circle, the lack of blood, it just didn't appear ritualistic in the spiritual sense. It was clean, precise, intentional. I get the feeling that this is not some weird witchcraft ritual. I think someone wants us to think something dark and supernatural's going on. This feels staged, he said quietly. But why? Sasha whispered. I don't know, Jack replied, but damn it, why can't anything ever be easy? He stepped back outside the room. He didn't notice the small blinking light embedded just behind the hanging dream catcher. A camera, watching and recording. Sasha was back in the kitchen, picking up the papers that were scattered all over the floor. They were mostly drawings, sketches of the surrounding landscape, Lou's goats, an occasional sketch portrait of someone unknown. There were lists and grocery receipts. Then Sasha found something that might be useful. A small notebook. Flipping through the pages, Sasha scanned a few entries. She saw lights again 3 nights in a row. Said they were silent, moved against the wind, and vanished when she tried to film them. Then, here, Sasha's voice dropped. She writes, felt like someone was watching the house last night. Heard whispering. I don't trust the teenagers from the gas station. They've been acting strange. I got a dead animal on my porch this morning. They're trying to scare me. Jack's jaw clenched. So it could be local kids pulling some twisted prank, but it might also be someone trying to cover something bigger. Rachel swallowed hard. So what now? Well, we find out where those tire tracks go, Jack said, stepping outside again. And we figure out who would want to silence a harmless crazy lady living out in the desert. From the hills above, the wind shifted, and faintly, almost too faint for human ears, a low mechanical hum whispered through the air. A drone. The game was on. Jack looked towards the ridge line where the faint hum had come from, though now the sky seemed empty. He walked to the car, dust rising behind his boots. Well, let's head to that gas station. If anyone's seen Luella or know who's been hanging around her place, maybe we'll find out something there. Rachel nodded, sliding into the back seat without a word, still clutching the photo of her mom and Lou. As Jack started the engine, the sun flashed against something far off, metallic, high in the air, then gone. Unseen in the distance, a silent figure watched them through a drone's infrared lens. The small gas station on the outskirts of Goldfield looked as if it hadn't changed in years, complete with rusted sign, sun-bleached Coca-Cola machine, and a dog asleep in the shade. Jack pulled in and killed the engine. Well, you two stay in the car, Jack said. Now, inside the small station, the air was thick with the smell of stale jerky and motor oil. A man with a dirty t-shirt and a large beer gut looked up from behind the counter. "Help you?" he asked suspiciously. "Yeah, I'm looking for someone, a woman named Luella. She lives out past Goldfield, maybe 10 miles southeast of town." The man didn't blink. "Looney Lou? Haven't seen her in a few days. She usually comes by for butane and smokes. Anyone else been out that way? Strange trucks? Outsiders asking questions?" The man's eyebrows raised. "You mean besides you?" Jack didn't answer. After a moment, the clerk sighed and leaned closer. "Listen, 3 nights ago, a couple of black SUVs come through, real quiet. Didn't stop for gas. Took the road out towards Lou's place. About an hour later, I seen them come back, hauling something under a tarp. Never seen any of them before." Jack's jaw clenched. "License plates?" "Nope, all black, clean." Jack nodded once, handed the man a 20 for a bottle of water he didn't need, and walked out. He didn't see the smile on the man's face as he watched Jack walk out the door and back to the car. Sasha looked up as Jack slid into the driver's seat. "Well?" And she was taken. Rachel's breath caught. "By who?" Suddenly, Sasha's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. "It's a text message. No number, just coordinates." Jack took the phone and his brow furrowed. He slid the phone into his jacket and looked at the sky again. He started the engine as the drone, unseen to all of them, peeled silently away, vanishing into the vast desert sky. Game on. Out in the scorched heat of the Nevada desert, past the edge of Tonopah and way off the sheriff's usual patrol, 5 teenage boys crouched in the dusty shadow of an abandoned shack, the hum of their stolen drone fading into the wind. It had all started as a joke. "Old Looney Lou's lost it," Tucker's dad had said one night as he was working on a car in the mechanic shop behind the gas station. "I swear she talks to her precious goats. She thinks she's seeing aliens. Told me all about it when she stopped in here for smokes the other day." Tucker had laughed, but it had sparked an idea that soon took hold. He and his friends decided they'd tested it. First, they flashed lights through her trailer windows late at night, cheap LEDs on drones, and mirrors bounced from the ridgeline. She'd stagger outside with a flashlight, swearing under her breath, yelling at the stars. Then they left fake crop circles in her yard, put weird sounds on a Bluetooth speaker, tossed a few bones in her garden. And Luella bit every time. For boys that had nothing better to do than terrorize a poor single woman living alone in the desert, now this was great fun. They'd installed cameras in her bedroom and meditation room when she was out and rifled through her belongings. They'd left mysterious symbols drawn on her mirror and her windows. Now this had been going on for weeks. But the game kicked up a level when they caught Jack, Sasha, and Rachel on camera sitting in Luella's living room discussing Guardian papers. They wanted a reaction. They wanted some chaos, some fun. Nothing to do out here anyway except wait for the next dust storm or the occasional busted ATV. So they made a plan. They grabbed Lou the night before Jack and the others arrived, wearing alien masks, gloved, quick. She hadn't screamed like they thought she would. She just looked at them, calm as anything, like she'd been expecting it. Well, that had rattled them a little. They stashed her in the old root cellar behind the mining tunnel, left her with water, some blankets, and some sandwiches. They weren't going to hurt her. They were just going to spook her, make Jack think something weird was going on. Tucker was the one who carved the pinnacle in the trailer. He used some paint mixed with blood from a butchered goat they'd taken off a backcountry farm. This even creeps me out, he'd said, laughing. Let 'em think it's Satanists or aliens or some other desert cult crap. Then Grayson sent the coordinates. A little breadcrumb. Something to keep Jack chasing his tail. Bet you anything he goes straight out there, he'd grinned, feet kicked up on an old cooler. She's going to tell them she was taken by aliens. They all laughed at that. Tucker's dad had been in on it. As long as no one gets hurt, it's all harmless fun, he said. Keeps them off drugs, you know. But the boys didn't know just who they were messing with. Because even in the desert, games can go too far. And some people aren't as helpless as they look.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode, and I hope you'll join us next week for another installment of the Wolfman Chronicles. And Clay and I would like to wish all of you a very happy Easter.